Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dynamic Character Productions. We've got another exit interview for you. This time we are joined by Luke. How you doing? He is obviously the number one Lydia stan here.
Yeah, rooting for Lydia to win. We'll see what happens. I
Alrighty.
hate that you know what happens. So I'm like, okay, I got to censor myself on the spoilers. But yeah,
Of
here we
course.
go.
And as always, Lily and Alex in the building. How you doing, guys?
Good. Ready to crack into it. How about you, Alex?
Yeah, we're on the earlier side today with an exit, so I'm a little freshened up. I feel good. Let's get into
Is
this.
that your all's polite way of saying because I'm the old man, I have to be in bed at an earlier time than everybody
No,
else?
no,
Are you saying because I was the one that was like, let's do this early? Okay,
no.
because you would be right.
I love an early exit. I like it.
But it's still posted at 8 p.m. So
Yes.
Yes. Like and subscribe at our
yeah.
channel right here. Oh, too
Right,
early. Too
exactly.
early, Alex. I'm sorry.
All right,
Let me know when
Lily.
to say that.
Yeah, well, to get right off the bat, what were your thoughts on the initial three tribes? Are you a big fan of it? And how did you feel about the other four that were on your initial tribe?
All right. So I'm going to try to slow down my speech because if I've watched anything from these episodes, I talk so fast that my brain doesn't even keep up. So we're going to slow down. I loved the three tribe format. I think I put that on my initial application. And I like that there's nowhere to hide. I think when we have the bigger tribe, yes, they're the hiders. I'm obviously not the personality that could hide, even if I wanted to. And I mean, I've seen a lot of feedback on my game, and I'm like, yeah, that was me calm and chill. So, um, yeah, I don't know if I could hide if I wanted to on a bigger tribe, and so my name would be out there either way. So I'm happy that I was on a smaller tribe. I really like that I hooked up with Low immediately. I think if you watch all the recaps for the first four episodes, you can't say Luke without saying Low. And I really liked that I hooked up with Low. I really liked Emily a lot. I'm actually a little embarrassed. I'm a huge Survivor Michigan fan. Go like and subscribe that channel. Shout out to Sarah X if you're watching. And I really love Survivor Michigan. And I was embarrassed that I didn't even recognize Emily from Survivor Michigan. And when Emily was even saying statements like, I went to University of Michigan and Ann Arbor, I was like, oh, I've been to the brewery there, not hitting the stimuli of, hey, I was on Survivor Michigan. And by the way, if you look on Facebook, we have like 50 mutual friends. I've actually played games with people from Survivor Michigan before. So I was embarrassed that I did not recognize Emily. And then, of course, Jonathan and Mike, they're swell too. Obviously, Jonathan and I had a lot of conversations that day about what went wrong. And Mike, he's a person. No, I'm kidding. No, DCP has been really good to Mike, and Mike is actually from Florida. And I have some close friends that live near Florida. Like it's really like the whole state. That sounds embarrassing. Near where Mike lives in Florida. um, it was one of those tribes where you like everybody to begin with, and then we were just thrust right into tribal council. So we had to scramble right away. And when you like everybody, you still got to find a target somewhere. And so it ended
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, and I want to touch very briefly on because I know you talked a little bit about the first boot being Mike. I feel like it really set the tone for the season that you guys didn't vote out Emily. Did you realize that that would happen? Talk us through why keep Emily over Mike.
I'm gonna admit it because I've like one thing that's been really good about DCP is I've had a chance to really invest in my game emotionally, socially, ecumenically, go through and see everything that I did in this game. And I'm like, oh, some of that was instinct, some of that was intentional. And I will say, I think my gut instinct was that there were five girls in the entire game. And I think my gut instinct was I'm not going to vote out Emily here because I'm not going to vote out a girl round one. I think that's what I wanted to do. Is that fair? I don't know. But I think that's where my brain was. And I was like, okay, so if I'm not going to vote you out, I want to work with you. And I had similar feelings with Lo and Emily. And so that's just what happened there. I think it really is chance that Mike was pulled away first versus Jonathan. And I think at that round, it could have gone either way. I think Lo was into working with me right away. And I think both of us were into not voting out Emily. And so just because Jonathan was there first, that's how that cookie crumbled. Was it because, oh, am I getting an idol? Did I finally say the right
this is like,
did I finally
what
say
could have
it?
been if, you know, it was Jonathan who was the first confessional or whatever.
Right.
Like that would have been wild.
And a lot of these things are luck. And again, since we didn't have time to form those bonds, and then those bonds right away, like we didn't get to, for those of you that don't know everything, we didn't get to meet everyone before the first tribal. It was, hi, you're in these tribes and we're going to do the challenge and then we're going to vote people off. So we didn't even have every bond in that game for our tribe was made immediately because we had to vote someone right away. I do see a world where, because I know, like I said, I've watched all the commentary, I've watched all the unofficial, I've listened to everything. I have a word wall of words used to describe me. It's been fun. But I've watched everything, and I think no matter what I would have done there, I think Mike still goes. I think even if I had been subtle and not as, to quote the great Jon, aggressive in that first round, if I had just laid back, I still think it's Lo and me working together with Emily to vote out Mike. I think that happens no matter what. And I think if I hadn't lied to Mike and I had told him bluntly we were voting him out, maybe we would have had more of a blow up, but I still think it ends up that way. So did it set the tone for the season? Maybe. Was that intentional? Not at all. Was I a great mastermind behind the plan for the season? No. But then the other side of it, you know, and I meant what I said, is if we're voting out Emily because she screwed up the challenge, and then the next challenge I screw up, I think we're seeing at the next challenge and we're all scared to step up into roles because we're all scared. And if we screw that up, we're going to get voted out. And I think that gave us more of the freedom to feel like we could step up and not worry that that was going to be the reason we were targeted. That being said, I think Mike's a great guy. I'd work with him in the next game. I hear DCP alum really love Mike, and so whatever I can do to get in with that group would be great.
I mean, it's definitely extremely smart to be thinking about not only your game, but how your team works together in the long run. It's just interesting because normally the first boot really is whoever, you know, kind of screwed up that challenge. So
shout out to Matt Dela Cruz, love you. But that was the season of DCP I watched first when you all gave me that link. And I'm like, oh, I know Matt, he's fun. And then I watched him completely blow that first challenge and I went, oh. And so fun fact, I spent hours in my classroom actually trying to pull index cards from cups and also blowing the ping pong ball on top of the index cards to try to get it into the cup because I was like, I am not going to be the first boot because of this challenge. Like it's like the last week of school and kids are over there engaged in something standard based. And I'm like over there with cups and index cards and blowing ping pong balls into cups. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing, just a game.
Love that.
We love it. We love it. Well, and we see, you know, you win the next two challenges in your tribe and then your swap tribe. And your tribe decides to kidnap Lee when you get the choice. Would this have been your ideal person to choose? How do you think that impacted your game?
There's a lot of questions there. Results.
Yeah.
I'm like results oriented. Lee was perfect. No. I'm gonna speak favorably about the lady who backstabbed me in the back, and I've obviously grown out a depression beard since then because I've been so upset and emotionally unavailable ever since I got voted out. But anyway, Lo really chose Lee because she wanted to put Emily in that swing spot. She has made that clear in individual groupings, and I think that was a smart decision. I would think that if I were in the Emily situation, I don't know if I could have handled it like Emily could have. So my brain was, let's save Emily. We get her through one round. That's another round survivor, and then we can worry about the next round. Emily handled it perfectly. So results oriented, Lee was a better decision than Emily, even though that's where my brain went. Ultimately, now you said, how did that affect my game? What would have affected my game just a little bit better is if Ben had been kidnapped, and then Ben could have been the vote instead of Lee, because I think the chaos of Lee would have been a lot better for me at merge than the panicness of Ben, if I had to say a reasoning. But that being said, as we will talk about very shortly, I don't think any of this matters.
I like that you point out that Emily handled being in the middle very well. And you are a smart player and you see this. Does this make you want to work with Emily more, or does this make you more frightened of her long term?
All right, so I'm speaking as Luke, who watched the episode last night, and not Luke that you could have talked to 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago, or 3 months ago. I was happy to work with Emily. Ever since the first round, I felt like Emily and I also bonded. And some of that weird confessional I gave at the end of this last episode even shows that I had an egg in the basket of Emily that I was rooting for and wanting to work with. So I wanted to work with Emily the rest of the game, and her playing it well and watching her did not frighten me. In fact, if anything, I think Emily is accurate in that her chaotic energy matches my, whatever you want to call this, bluntness, aggressiveness, whatever. I think and that would be good to work with. And I think that player works better with a person like me than more of the reserved players. And so I think Emily played extremely well. I wasn't frightened by the fact that she was able to be saved. I think we're going to talk about so many things here, but one of my weaknesses in the merge was that I never got to talk to Emily by herself, and I always had a group of people. And I thought leaving that room, Emily was with me, so Emily would have said something when I left. And I was happy to see in the confessionals last night that Emily was with me. It's just one of those, you don't want to go against the grain. And so I will say overall, yes, Emily, great, love her, best player ever. Go watch Survivor Michigan. Shout out to Cooper. I hope you're watching this.
And you touched on it briefly that you play better with characters or castaways like Emily. Do you think that the kind of reserve player like Vee, and we see in the next episode where you're trying to get votes, you're moving around a lot, she is feeling some type of way about how you're handling the scramble rooms. Is that the type of person that you find more threatening than Emily? And did you realize that? All
right, so all the story about Vee. So I think I just rubbed Vee the wrong way from the get-go. We had just had a conversation, Lo, Jonathan, and I, about our favorite animals. And I had said my favorite animal was a frog, and I would like to be a frog. And then we get into the room, and I see Vee's poster, and I go, Vee, are those, like, I think I even said it's a QR code because, you know, as you all have seen, I am the least observant person ever. And so I was like, oh, and she was like, no, these are frogs. And Lo was even like, Luke, we were just talking about frogs. And I was trying to bond with Vee over frogs. And I just felt like Vee wasn't giving me anything. I felt like Vee was like, why is he talking to me about this? Oh, he's obviously trying to play. He's trying to get in with strategy. And I think a lot of that has to do with Lydia, which we will talk about. But I don't necessarily think she was threatening. And I felt like we weren't bonding. And then that round before, the round that Jonathan went, I know that the episode edited it, but in my perception, I was in every room going, Lex, 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 let's vote out Lex. Next room, Lex, 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 let's vote out Lex. Next room, Lex, 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 vote out Lex. Oh, there's Lex. Hey, Lex, I'm doing great. How are you? Waterfalls, chill. Lex, 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 vote out Lex. And so I think Vee was like, in one of those rooms where I saw Lex jump in or something like that, that I was like, Lex, Lex, and I kind of jumped out. And Vee was kind of like, why did Luke jump in? And then he just said Lex, and then he left. And this is weird, and I don't like being told what to do, and I want to have a conversation. And I was really just trying to Lex, Lex, Lex it to death. And I think if you watch later, I know McKenna has all the information. Vee and I actually made up that very same round after that confessional where I said, this is what I was trying to do. And Vee's like, okay, this is how it came off to me. And I'm like, I am so sorry. That's not what I meant. And Vee's like, oh, no, we're good. We're fine. But, you know, that was after the confessional where she was like, why are we not targeting Luke? And Lex, 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 and
We gotta
decided
hype
Lex.
up the drama.
Yeah, I got it.
Well, let's talk about how did it transition from the Lex, wow, that is a tongue twister,
So,
to Lydia. In that
okay, well, we're going to talk about Lydia, all the Lydia of it here in a little bit. So for me, in my mind, and I know you don't have all the information, I have Lexed it to death. Like I started, you even see me from the beginning of that round go Lex. Like I had pushed this the whole time. So when we got into that room with Jonathan, Lowe, and myself, and Lowe was like, I don't know what to do. And Jonathan's like, Lydia, I'm like, well, they've heard me say Lex for what I felt like the whole round, and they still weren't jumping on that. So I was like, okay. And I remember Lowe saying something like, I don't want to make any more decisions for this group. And then Jonathan said something like, all right, let's just do Lydia. And I was like, fine. Because I felt like I had said Lex so much that if they were still not, that was not at their forefront, that was not what I wanted to do. Something was happening. There was a deal with Lex. They wanted to keep Lex. Now it's interesting when you watch the episode back, apparently all I had to do was say Lex one more time. And because Lo was upset that she voted for Lydia, Jonathan was okay to switch to Lex. And so if I had said it one more time, Lex would have gone home in that 3-2-1. But from my perception, I had so Lex that hammer to death that I felt like in order to keep the group together, to keep those numbers, it can't always be about me. Go with the decision the group wants. I didn't want to vote for Lydia. Turns out I should have wanted to vote for Lydia. So can I just tell the Lydia of it all in front of everyone? Okay.
Yeah.
So I was, if you all remember from my interview, I was like, I do not want to play with players I know. I want a whole new reputation. I want to play with players. I don't want to play with anyone I know. I am tired because for all those who have never played an org before, every game affects the next game if you know someone, whether you want to admit it or not. You know them, you have a feeling, can you work with them? Do you not want to work with them? Did they snake you last time? Are they going to be loyal? If I staked everybody this game and then you played an org with everybody next game, they look at me and they go, oh, he staked me last time. Yeah, I might want to work with him. I might not. We'll see. And I said, I just want to work. I wanted to find a whole new group of people that I've never played a game with and see how I do. And what do you know? You put the cast up there and there is Andrew Marcus and Lee Ferrell. And I have met Lee Ferrell twice in person. That is, I've known Lee. I watched to a Survivor premiere with Lee. I've been to a thing in New York with Lee. I know Lee, but I also know Lee enough that just like you described me in the draft, the cast assessment, I'm a variable player. So I knew that Lee and I could go either way. Andrew Marcus may be one of my best friends in the org community. And every time Alex says that my best friend is Andrew Marcus, I get a little jealous because I love Andrew Marcus. And I'm sorry for all those in my other org community that heard me say that and Libby is going to clip that, but I do. And Andrew's brother Jason and I were almost like best allies that they used to message me during the great pandemic of which brother was my favorite. And I would always be like, point Jason, point Andrew. I've talked about visiting them out in Philly multiple times. I love Andrew Marcus. And I'm like, oh, this is good. If Andrew
separate tribes for all of you.
Separate tribes for all of us. I'm like, perfect. And then who goes? Andrew goes, Lee goes. Shout out to Michael O'Rear. He runs Survive the Night on Twitter. If you are big into Star Wars and Marvel, he has a podcast, Stark Wars. It's available on Spotify. He ran a game called Drunks versus Stoners. And I'm sorry, Mom, if you're watching this. I was not Team Stoner. I was Team Drunk. And I thought it would be fun to actually get drunk before the Drunk versus Stoner game. Because YOLO, like, what are you going to do? Like, I don't want to come in and be like, I'm drinking a Mike's Hard Lemonade and, oh, I'm drunk. Like, I thought, let's do it. In this game, I have, and I'm not going to use real names here, I have a friend who is misgendered severely by a player. And in this game, multiple times on purpose. And then I get targeted by that player for being drunk on the drunk tribe. He said phrases like, Luke, you need to go drink water. Luke, go call a hospital. We are scared for your health. He was gaslighting me to the end. So that is what I remember about this game. QDCP. Apparently, there was a player on the Stoner tribe named Lydia. I did not remember Lydia. I did not remember this game. I remember these two very facts of this game. And Lydia very much liked me from this game. And I did not realize that Lydia is telling her whole tribe, I know Luke. Luke is great. We played this game together. So we get to this round of the infamous Jonathan Lydia play. And Lydia's getting a little freaked out and a little sussed out by me because I'm acting shady to her, because I'm acting like I don't know who she is. And here she is trying to strike up friendly conversation about time we had. We never got on this page. She was like, Luke's acting sus. Luke is acting like he doesn't know me. Luke is. And so then you see that happen in the Jonathan boot. She's going around. If Luke says he's never played orcs, he's lying. I've played with Luke. And like, because she's getting more and more infuriated that I don't know her. And this is where it's really awkward for me. I didn't remember her because I was drunk. So we're sitting there this whole game, and I had the gut reaction. And those in the group chat know I have the group gut reaction. I want to work with Lydia. I want to work with Lydia. Lydia's having this gut reaction. I want to work with Luke. But we just never got on the same page because I cannot remember Lydia. And I think every other decision in this entire game is tainted by this because Lydia has already told Vee that I've played games before. So Vee, rather than wanting to hear about my frog story, is already sus of me just having that conversation. I know that going around the merge boot, it was like Luke's played a game. And then infamously, my number one in the game, the person that I would have gone to the end with for $0, was freaked out that I had played a game before because she had heard it from Lydia and I hadn't told her. And I'm like, so that's one of the reasons that it even was described as Lucas being shady last round, because I never flat out jumped in and said, hey, everybody, I've played games before. Now, that being said, do I regret that decision? I don't know. Andrew was targeted for playing games. Lee was targeted for playing games. So if I had come into my tribe and said, hey, everyone, I've played games like this before, I think you get the same reaction. And I think it's really interesting that Lydia could go in and say, hey, I've played games like this with Luke before, and all the target goes off of Lydia's back for playing games before, but all of a sudden I'm the shady person because I never once mentioned that I played games. And I'm sure McKenna has a better perspective of it than I, but I don't think I ever even got I don't think I ever answered that ever. I don't think I said no, I've never played games. I don't think yes, I had. I think I was pretty evasive to that question, or I let other people talk and then the round was up because I knew that that would put a target on my back if I said I did. And I didn't know what Lee was saying. I didn't know what Andrew was saying. So I didn't want to say no and have that come hit me in the back. But I think Lowe interpreted that.
Yeah, I wasn't getting a lot of footage of you being like, yeah, I played X, Y, and Z or whatever. That's why I didn't include a lot of Lydia going around, because there were multiple clips of her going around to multiple people being like, if Luke said he never played a game, he lied. If Luke never said he never played a game, he lied. Just
all the time that you were going in and out of room saying
Lex.
She was going in saying Luke has played a game.
Yeah, and I never revealed that, and I think that freaked Lo out. And we can talk a little bit about what could have been, should have here, and things I could have done. But I don't know, no matter how I am perceived, that I could have initially stopped the Lydia impression she gave on her own tribe about me. I wasn't going to remember Lydia. Sorry. And I think that shaded Lydia and Vee out. And I think at that point, the well's poisoned. And no matter if I had played back, if I'd been more aggressive, if I got Lex out, if I hadn't gotten Lex out, if I voted for Lydia and Lydia didn't play an idol, Lydia did play an idol, I think all of it goes back to me just not recognizing Lydia. And so if I could just take one thing back, one regret, is playing that drunks versus stoners game that I didn't think was going to affect my DCP experience. So kids, stay sober. All right.
I would also say, I think the other thing that sort of hurt you going into that merge round is the people that you did spend time with was good, but like the people that you didn't have the opportunity to spend time with, I think also went against you. Like you had time with Lex, but you really were just scrambling, trying to figure out a vote, and you all get blindsided by the idol.
Right.
You don't get an opportunity to talk with Austin, Sarah, or Jon ever until you're merged.
Right. And can I just shout out Sarah? I have learned so much about Sarah through these episodes that I did not know, and she is killing it. And I get why you sequester the jury so we don't get to see these things, but I just loved Sarah, and everything. And I wish we had had that conversation. I don't think it would have mattered at Merge, but in fact, there's a lot of things that I don't think and do think could have mattered, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But I think not seeing Sarah did not affect anything. Yeah.
So my question is, we hear that Lydia's going around, saying Luke has played a game, exactly what McKenna said, but she's saying this to everybody but you. And I'm wondering, as just kind of seeing the episodes, I don't really go through the clips as a viewer, did that ever get back to you? And if not, why do you think it didn't?
I found out that I got targeted for playing orgs before from another jury member when they got into Jury House. I had no clue. And my first question was, wait, what orgs have I played? What are you talking about? And I think I even DM'd Lee right there, like, why did you rat me out? Because I thought that's what it had to have been. I had literally no clue. And I think Lydia played that well. I think, so why didn't I know? Well, Lo felt that I was being dishonest by not saying it. So Lo's not going to say it. I wish we had that conversation because I would have said yes. I would have, I have a couple of fantasies we can get to how I could have played things better that I don't think would have mattered. But one of those is having an Ask Me Everything at Tribal Council. Like, what is going on? Why are you all against me? I will answer honestly right now every question that you have. And one of those being, did you play orgs? Yes. I think Vee was already out of the water because Vee and Lydia had been together. So that's why she's not telling me. I should have picked up the verbal cue. And this is something that did not make the episode. Of when we were tribal council, I think we were all casting votes. Jonathan says, I need to be honest about my org experience because I found out that people are upset about people's org experience. And I run a game with my husband, and I've always been on production side, and he's telling us all about this org. And I'm just sitting there, cool. And I should have picked up right then and there, oh, this was my turn to go, oh, you all wanted to hear this about me. And Jonathan, I think, took it more personally than to tell me about it. So I don't know. I could play on them.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned it earlier that you wanted to work with Emily. So I know she was kind of at the top of your list of someone you wanted to reconnect with come Merge. Was there anybody else that you kind of had your eye on that maybe you wanted to reconnect with or wanted to make that initial connection at that vote?
From other tribes at the Merge is what you're asking? Okay, let me ponder. So I'm one of those people that will see a movie and then I'll read all the movie reviews and then find the movie review that says what I'm thinking. So shout out to Jonathan from the VL because he nails my thoughts right on the head. I'm like, oh, he said exactly what I was thinking at that time. I was dead on for Lo all the way to the end because that's what you do is you ride. When you play a mini is you find who you're going to be loyal to and you ride it to the end. And if you have to backstab each other at some point, you have to. But for me, that was where I was. So who else did I want to connect to? I would have loved to connect with Sarah for similar reasons on why I wanted to connect with Emily. I wanted to connect with Jon because his name was not Austin. And I thought Austin was a target. And I wanted to make sure that I got a hold of the other person. If I'm looking on retrospect, I probably should have intentionally went from Ben just a little bit more. Again, we'll talk about whether that matters or not, probably in a little bit. But what did I want to do? Would probably have been Sarah and Jon.
Okay. And I mean, let's jump right into it. So you seem like you're pretty aware at the Merge vote that your name is kind of out there. And you talk about how does someone go about strategically saving themselves. And we hear in your confessional, I just need to throw out a name. But we see a lot of clips of you not throwing out a name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk us through that.
All right. So first of all, it's interesting when you go back to the other two votes. Lo threw out Mike's name. And then Lex threw out Lydia. I threw out Lex. I was worried that I was being a little too on top of things, and I wanted to tone it down just a little. I was worried that someone of my stature, and I mean energy level, gender, demographic, pick something, is going to be an obvious target for people that don't know me. But I knew the second I said a name, everybody was running to that person saying, Luke said this name, let's all vote Luke out. And I knew that that was going to happen. It is a very traditional middle of the road mini move. Is, oh, what name do you want, Luke? Oh, Austin? Hey, I heard Luke's throwing out Austin. Oh, Austin, did you hear Luke's throwing you out? And it all just turns on you. So I was trying to avoid that by trying to do some signaling that just did not work. And again, that has to do with the lack of rooms and ability to do one-on-ones. Like I was trying to signal to Lo when Lo had said earlier, Austin, pay attention to him. He's killing all the challenges. So I tried to say, let's go after the person that's killing the challenge. Well, Ben hears that and he goes, oh, Luke's coming after me. No, I was trying to tell Lo in the room that I saw Lo that this is what I was thinking. You know, that got turned. I will tell you all, this is what I was about to do. I was this close and I said, don't do it. And it's Emily is the reason I didn't do it. And that was Lex. In the very last second, when the breakout rooms were closing, he literally looks at me and goes, Lydia. And I was like, Lex is playing this too strong. I don't want to vote for Lydia. I need to blow up Lex right now. And in your question, Alex, when you asked me about why did I do the challenge, I was ready to go, but let's forget the challenge. Let's talk about Lex. Lex is going after Lydia. I don't want to vote Lydia. I just am confused why everyone keeps telling me Lydia, but I'm not the one pushing that. I want to work with Lydia and just doing a big grandstand. And I was ready to do it. I had it in my mind. I even had some of the wording ready. But I said, Emily was in that room with Lex when Lex said, hey, we're voting Lydia together. And so I was like, okay, Emily's going to have my back a little bit. Emily's not going to jump immediately on the Luke plan. Lo had said to me in a room, oh, I said, Lo, I'm being serious with you. I'm dead with you to the end, which I am still saying at this point. And she said, oh, and Lex popped in the room. And so it all was in there for me to go, all right, if you blow up Lex, this is stupid right now. Lex is with you. Like, and of course, nobody was with me. But what I should have done, the only move I had is just like I Lex did. I should have Austin it from the minute that round started. I might have. So here's just my perspective, and I'm sure this is going to come up with some other questions. Look, I just wrote down Lydia's name. I just told Lydia and Vee very crystal clear that I was going to vote for Lex, and I wrote for Lydia and Vee. I've burned this. I did it for to stay with the group, but look, I don't know if I were Lydia or Vee, I would trust any word that I said after that. I just spent the whole time throwing out Lex. If Lex has got to hear it, right? Someone's got to say, hey, Lex, Luke was throwing out your name the whole time. Well, that's gone. So all I got left is Lo going into this tribal. And so when everyone went against me, well, it's either the new connections I've never met or everyone that I just kind of lied to and Lo. I just didn't see a way out. And even if I had gone around, and I know it's a would have, could have, should have, and Austin it from the beginning, I'm not confident that Vee, Lydia, or Ben would have jumped on that, even though Ben had an obsession with voting out Austin because of the previous round. I know that now, 4 months later, or 3 months later, we might say, well, I might have considered it, but I don't know how I could have just written your name down right then. So I just saw that I was shooting dead. I don't know if I could have found an idol. I don't know if blowing up Lex's game would have worked. I do think that if I had said Lex one more time the round before, that changes things a little bit for the merge. But at this point, unless I'm looking at Jon right away and saying, let's vote out Lo, I don't know what I could have done. And I think, like, you know, Lo's freaked out because I've played games before. I'm not going to get past that. And Lo was the one in the episode to throw it out. Right away, Lo was like, hey, can we all vote out Luke? So we're going to vote out our own tribe and the only ally. Will that work out for Lo? Tune in to find out. Like and subscribe to DCP. But Lo, so when Lo did that, I don't think what leg your closest ally is throwing you off. I don't know that Lo's the one that's throwing it. I want to work with Lydia, but Lydia's the only name I'm getting from anybody. I just don't know what I could have done. And I know that it's easy to say, well, a better player might have figured out. I just think I was pinned. And,
Upper creek without a paddle.
Yeah. I think that idle play didn't just screw over Jonathan. It also took me out. And good on Lydia for doing that.
Well, I wouldn't say like a better player could have gotten their way out of that situation because like in a mini sort of like handicaps any player because of the pace of game, because of the lack of rooms, because of the lack of time. And you only have this finite amount of time to move. So even if you're aware, if you don't have an idol or you clearly no longer have the numbers, there's really not much for you to do other than try to blow up people's spots and try and like suddenly like, oh, I was keeping things concealed. I'm going to just throw caution to the wind and start throwing things out everywhere. As a host, I will have been just getting some popcorn and like been enjoying that while you go off on Lex and seeing Lex's reactions because we all know Lex also gives great facials, not just Emily. But it would have been entertaining, but it's like there's only so much you can do. And at the end of the day, it's like you're trying to have a fun time. Like you constantly say during the game, you're playing a game for $0. Like maybe if there's some like more on the line, maybe you push more, you have a little bit more like not even awareness, but like it's like certain things that you see on the show where like you're in the room with Lo and with other people and the way that they talk, it's like for someone who's like fresh of mind, hasn't just been playing for like 6+ hours, they'd be like, oh, they're avoiding the question. They're avoiding giving me any type of statement. How is it that we've gone 15 minutes and no one has heard a name? The name is me.
And the entertainment value is there, I guess. What am I gambling on? If it turned out that Lex and Emily had my back, one, how stupid would I be? Two, I think the odds were better there than any type of blow up changing my fate.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree with you that a blow up would have been fun, and I can do a good blow up. Like I can do that if that's what we want to do. But to me, it's calculated, but I just thought the odds were just a little bit better there. I mean, and to be blunt, if I had voted for Lex the round before, like I said I would have, and then I blew up a game, I think we get a different result than voting for Lydia the round before and then blowing up the game because I literally have no one in the game. I mean, Lo went against me right away. That's going to be like, all right, Luke's best for my game. And the one person who Lo would be best for the game with, or I would be best in the game with, is like, no. So,
right.
Yeah, and I think like I do want to credit you. These games, like Alex mentioned, there's only so many scramble rooms, and maybe in a longer game, you can create the discussions that you want by having certain people there. But we see in these different scramble rooms, your mind is working to try to find a name for this group of people. And I don't know that a lot of people are able to do that. That's why a lot of people default to, I haven't heard a name because they can't think on their feet fast. And I would be one of them, fast enough to say, all right, we've got these 4 people in the room. None of them are close with Austin, so I'm going to say Austin. And you're very good at that. And I think that you did well in those scrambles, but you can tell that that your name is out there.
And the other thing about it is when everyone's playing the anyone but me game, any name takes you out. Mm-hmm. Any name, like, because everyone says it's not me, I'm good, and everybody's going to jump on that. And I'm not saying everyone's playing that right now. Tune into DCP to find out. But I would say that there are a lot of people playing the anybody but me game. That's Luke. That's not me. Not let me think, how could Luke benefit my game? Because at that point, I am a number. I'm a number 3. I'm a number 4. I'm a number 5. Mm-hmm. I'm a number 6 for somebody because I have no other choice. But I don't think anybody really took initiative either to pick me up. And unless I knew all the tribal makeups of every single group, I don't think I would have had the ability to say, here's why I'm number 6 for you. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you said ultimately like several minutes ago, it becomes the mid like that the stereotypical merge episode of like it's almost as if it's a new game and it's the first boot again. And
Yeah.
everyone's first idea in the first boot concept is hey, as long as it's not me, I'm cruising. I'm good. I'll put down whatever name you want as long as that name doesn't spell out my name.
Right.
I'm good. But then like after that is when like the game can start opening up again, dynamics can shift, things can happen. But
Dynamic
I know McKenna.
productions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you know what I mean. It's
Yeah.
it's a very complicated situation because it reverts back to the beginning of the game instead of acting as, oh, this is the sixth boot, this is the seventh boot. It's oh, we're at the first boot again. How do we go about it? First name that gets mentioned, cool. I ain't saying shit after.
Not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do one big what if, because I love a what if question in exit interviews. What if all the votes went on Lex? Let's say Lydia still uses her idol on herself, but it doesn't matter in the before the merge vote. Lex goes home. You still have Jonathan, and Lo is still there, and you never put Lydia's name on parchment. How does that change your game going into the merge vote out?
So again, I can speak from my own perspective. That also requires everybody else to follow my imagination as well.
Yeah.
And like I'm not here to discredit my number one. That's why my shirt says Lydia Stan. But Lo did throw me right away as the boot, even against people she hadn't met. So that shadiness that I am protruding is already there. So I already assume Lo, Vee, and Lydia are a thing. I think Lo might say, and I hope that she would, hey, Luke's the one that called Lex. Jonathan wanted to do Lydia. And if that's what happens, and I think Jonathan is a bigger threat to that inner core, and I have at least one round to survive that I didn't have before. That being said, through what I've heard through other conversations, maybe Lo and Jonathan were closer than I thought. So would that have happened, or would it have been more, here we're a united five going into this council, pick up Ben, then all of a sudden Sarah, John, Austin, one of them are going. That might have happened. That's the way I would have liked to see it. I think Ben's with Vee and Lydia no matter what at this point. I think I could get Sarah back. I think Lo could get Sarah back. I think it's more interesting. I think I have a little bit more ways to work my way, and I'm not and Vee and Lydia heard me say that I was voting Lex, so they're not like, oh, Luke is lying and being shady about who he's voting for. So we can at least trust in what he's saying. And then there's a third world what if out there, like what if I could read color, where I get an idol and I play that idol on Jonathan and vote for Lex anyway.
Well, there was no color with the idols, mister.
No, he's talking about
on the paper that you sent
legacy.
Out.
The legacy.
Yeah. The legacy. Yeah.
Or there's something, yeah. But if I could have gotten one of those and I vote Lex there anyway, then all of a sudden we have a restart with that tribe. Even Lydia's played hers. I played mine against Jonathan. We're saved there. Or I save mine for the merge, and poor Lydia goes. Or maybe I don't vote Lydia here. Maybe I try to target a John or someone that I didn't ever really bond with, and it's a 1-to-1. Like there's a lot of what ifs. For me, I think the only what if that I could initially change is that Lex vote. Other than that, I don't think I could, like I said, I could be quieter. I could be more peaceful. I just don't, you got to be your authentic self in these games. Otherwise people see through that. And I think I saw one of the commentaries say something like, Luke has to keep up this speed the whole game. And if Luke ever backs down from the speed, people are going to wonder what's going on. Well, I think I showed. I kept up that speed the whole game, and that's just who I am. And if I actually tried to hide that, I don't think I would have done well either. So I just think, I really do think it's that Lex vote's the only real tangible thing that I could have done different.
Well, I got 2 points before we move forward with this, because I assume, Lily, after this it would be Facebook questions, right? So one, I disagree about pace of play in a mini. long game, absolutely. Long game, if you go out swinging from the beginning, then that's the pace you have to maintain, because once you slow that down, people will start going, well, why are you talking to me less? In a mini, I don't believe that's the case. Mini, I think you can really, it's like a boxer. You duck and weave through it. Like, you can suddenly get very physical, get some punches in, but then you can go back. You go back to your corner, get some water, get toweled off, and while letting other people do the fighting. It's like, but in terms of the Lex thing, I think what changes here is, one, obviously, your original tribe comes in with the majority instead of Tugela, the Green tribe. But two, I think that makes Emily the decision maker at merge, because does she stick with OG tribe, where she's claiming to everyone that she feels she's on the bottom, she has nowhere to go, or does she go with Jon because that's the thing that she knows outside the game?
Some might say prior connection.
Some would say.
I wouldn't, because there were no prior connections in this game for me, but okay.
But that's the big what if of like what happens there. Does Emily go with you guys thinking that's her best path, or does she think her best path is still some hodgepodge of an alliance that includes Jon? And if you're targeting Jon, then she might be like, uh-oh, I want Luke in, but he's going against someone else that I also want in. How do I stop this?
And I think Jonathan even said somewhere in his either exit interview or in the episode that he felt he was on the bottom of Luke and Lowe too. And so I don't know. That's why it's interesting to me to think, oh, was Lowe with me all the way to the end, when both the other players in our tribe had at least vocalized in some confessional room that they felt they were on the bottom of the Luke and Lowe. So I don't know. I think it's interesting, and I mean, a lot of things changed the game. Like, had there been 2 scramble rooms for the winning tribe, that changes the game. People have more one-on-one connections, but you play with the game and the rules you have in front of you, and you do the best you can, and you forget about the game, and then you find out the game you signed up for has literally every second recorded, and you're going to dissect a game you played 3 months later and go, did I say that? Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. Or, oh, thank God I said that.
Well, give us at least 2 more production people, and maybe we can have a second breakout room for the winning tribe.
Oh, sure. So you said you're looking for production people. I know a guy. He has been on production for a couple of games. Yeah, he's willing. Yeah, you should talk to Luke.
They just never used the second breakout room for winning tribe. Yeah. That's why we cut it. We just said, heck you. Stay in the one room.
And my point again isn't that there should be or shouldn't be. My point is that that's just a little thing that changes the game.
Right. Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to get into the questions now. Our first question is from Kylie and Carrie, and it's, if you could only drink one beer, type, name, or brand, what would it be and why?
They changed the question since I last looked at it before this interview.
They texted it to me.
Because I was like, not that anyone would look at the Facebook questions right before their interview. That's ridiculous. So, again, shout out to Black Acre Brewing Company, Irvington, Indianapolis. Say, Luke, I'll buy you a beer. Anyway, what beer would I drink? So I think my favorite beer I've ever had was out of Cellar Maker Brewery in San Francisco. It is called Coffee and Cigarettes, and it is a smoked coffee stout. And I really like smoked flavors in my beer. I really like coffee flavors in my beer, and this was the best of both worlds. Shout out to Cellar Maker Brewery.
Nice. Right. I'm for that. Next question is from Kyle. Also wasn't in the Facebook group, so it's a surprise for you. But what's your favorite subject to teach? Or if you teach multiple subjects, which one is your favorite to teach?
That's fun that Kyle said that, because usually the answer to what do you like to teach, I always answer children. So the fact that he threw subject in there has like blown my mind. So my original degree is in wildlife management, i.e. I trapped animals. You put corn in a cage and the animal fell and you counted it and you let it go. You go to college for that, kids. Shout out to Purdue. But my favorite subject, therefore, is teaching like birds and tree ID. So I'll make the kids listen to different bird calls. They have to be able to identify them. or kids listen to identify different trees. My favorite is allaboutbirds.org from Cornell. And you can actually type in bird names there and click the sound. And kids will be playing sounds. I'll be like, whoever's playing the common loon, you want to put your computer volume down. They, oh, how did he know? So that's probably my favorite subject to teach.
Awesome. Well, now you have multiple questions from Lydia, so we'll go one at a time here.
Lydia, who's Lydia?
I don't know.
Oh, the girl from that game that one time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She was high the entire time.
She never. Oh, before you say that, I gotta say, Michael O'Rear, when I told him what happened, he goes, well, there's the difference between a drunk and a stoner right there. Like the drunk doesn't remember, but the stoner remembers clearly. Anyway, go ahead.
Random questions because we talked so much game already. First one is, what's your favorite season in the year?
Halloween. And you may not call that a season, but in Irvington, Indianapolis, home of Blackacre, we have a Halloween festival every year where everyone's dressing up in crazy costumes. We have a parade. We have pumpkin carving. We have pumpkin chucking. We have painting on the different windows. It is really a big
It's
to-do.
spooky season.
Yeah,
so...
it's fall, but it's the best. We yeah, it's probably the best time of the year around here.
Nice.
So
I'll accept that answer. Next one. What about your favorite Survivor season?
Oh, see, that's a difficult question because you have your favorite, then you have your underrated, then you have the one that you like that other people don't. But I think, and this is because I watched all the seasons live. I've never missed an episode. I'm a purist. Survivor 16, fans versus favorites. Suri killed it. Favorite player ever. Shout out to Suri. Thank you for watching this far. But definitely one of my favorite seasons of all time. Don't show that one to the kids. I usually will start with Kagian for the kids because you can get really into the GT of it all. But but no, I think that would be my favorite season.
Nice.
Fall.
And it's funny because her third question is actually something that we've also used in our applications in the past, and it's, would you rather be booted pre-merge or be a 0-vote finalist?
All right, this is a multi-layered question. So we're going to assume you meant from a mini, because I'm going to clarify that statement. Because a mini, if you've done your job for a mini, you've cleared your day. And so I would rather if I have cleared my day and told family and friends or whatever that I'm unavailable, I'm going to stay to the end and be the 0-vote finalist. I'm going to get every aspect of the mini done for the day. That's my thought process. Where would I want to be a pre-merge boot? I think it's more interesting when you're on the first juror, last pre-juror line. But which an unofficial survey on Twitter has said that you would rather be the pre-merge boot there. After I was chastised for that. But I think yeah, I think I'm a 0-boot finalist, and I have been a 0-boot finalist. Shout out to EQ, Equilibrium, hosted by the great Dylan Hedda. I believe they have a season premiering this Friday.
Nice. Next question is from McKenna Inglis. Where did you get a cheeseburger from?
You know, don't you love the Shane Powers reference? I thought it was great.
Appreciated.
Yeah. So where would I get a cheeseburger from? Because where I went, again, as everyone knows, you will see this exact scenery during jury until this place closes. But don't hate the hater. McDonald's, maybe? Yeah, because Wendy's is terrible. Not shout out to Wendy's. Okay.
Don't let their Twitter account find out. They'll roast you.
I gotta tell you though, never mind. Unhappiest place on earth, number 3 is Wendy's. Number 2 is the Grand Canyon. Number 1 is the Atlanta airport. Stories to follow. Hit me up on Twitter at HWKTRPPR, and I will tell you all 3 of those stories.
Well, our next question is from Victoria Fung. I enjoyed watching you this season, and I'm grateful for your support in the VL. If you could go back and pitch someone else to be voted out, who do you think would have been your best bet?
Victoria is great. I love all of her takes. I love Jonathan, all of his takes. I'm not saying that because they're nice to me. I haven't seen today's episode yet, so we'll see. But up till then, I've been like, okay, they're reading my mind pretty well. I think the only move I have is Austin. I don't think any other name has any traction. for the merge. Not at all. I think Ben would have been okay with it if he could have talked Lydia and Vee. We might have been able to make something happen. I don't think I have one other name that's going to get anything.
Ben
And for the record,
likes incorrectly voting for Austin so far. So like I don't know if you could get him on voting correctly for Austin.
But if we get him incorrectly voting, and then we get a couple other people incorrectly
there
voting,
there we go.
Then, but I just don't like. We've talked through this, and obviously, I've spent some time talking about this in reflection with people. I just don't see another name that I have that anyone's going to take seriously.
Yeah,
maybe Low, maybe that would be the other one. If I could go to Jon, Sarah, and right away and say Low's running the ship over there, maybe I could get something going, but I don't think any part or iota of my brain would have thought that at the time.
Yeah.
Next question is from Greg, but we sort of already touched it. It's what you could have done differently in the pre-merge, and really the main thing is we've said it to death at this point. Lex.
Yeah,
Lex.
I could have said Lex one more time, and I could have not played Drunks versus Stoners.
Yeah.
There you go.
If I had my regret list, it is number 1 Drunks versus Stoners. I think that was the biggest factor. Number 2 was Lex, not enough. Maybe. Yeah, we can talk about that in a minute. Okay.
Last question's from our good friend Jonathan.
No, don't ask this question. I read this. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
If you're given the hourglass from Survivor 41 and 42 to reverse time at the first challenge where Mike was eliminated, would you have broken it to reverse back time and grant immunity to your original tribe? If yes, which of the other 2 tribes would you have revoked immunity from?
And react to that question. Oh, you want me to actually answer it? It's weird because it's so result oriented at this point. I think if you asked me right now, I think I would not hit that button. I think it's important that we all got to figure out who was who and the bonds right away, and throwing us into that scramble really did that versus us sitting in a room talking. I don't know. I think that put us on our game face right away. So I think I would not hit that button. That being said, at the time, if I was really paranoid and I'm like, okay, do I just want to say safe one round? Of course you're going to hit the button. But then that second question, well, who do you give that to? Again, going on nothing, you give it to Lee's tribe only because he stole the dice thing right away. And that's what's in your head. And that's you don't have the other tribe in your mind because of that. So there you are. But right now, if you were to ask me right now, I'd say no, I wouldn't have. But, I'm spontaneous. I plan to be spontaneous tomorrow around 3. So I get it.
Well, the thing is, luckily for all viewers of this, you can expect to never see an hourglass pop up in a mini of ours ever.
Just turned on its side, right?
Yeah, just turn on its side. Just turn on its side. You don't smash it. You don't do anything. It's just there. But that wraps up our Facebook questions. So, Lily, back to you.
Yeah, so I like to ask one question at the end of every exit interview, and it is, if you could sum up your game in one word, what would it be and why?
I am so shocked at this question. This did not see this one coming, and I thought I had a word the other day for it too. It was fun.
I like it.
It was fun.
Right. We'll take it.
Can I just say a couple other comments?
Yeah.
First of all, again, I just have really thought the DCP production group has just gone out of their way for this. I love everything that you all have done. This is by far the best experience I ever had. And like I told you before the show started, I just wish you had done it with a different game of mine. But no, you all have just done so much hard work. I really just love production and all the work that you've done. And I just thank you, each and every one of you, for the time and the effort and energy that you give to this. And so thank you.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you so much, Luke. And thank you to everyone who's watched this exit interview. That does wrap up our merge exit interview. As always, please follow along, like this video, press subscribe, press that bell for all notifications so you know when new content drops. As always, our episodes drop on Mondays and Thursdays with exit interviews in the following days after, as well as our recaps every week with John David Millsip on Sundays at 8 p.m. Join us on all of our social media. You'll see it at the end of this video where if you follow us on Instagram or on our Facebook page, that's where you can ask questions for the exit interviews, get additional posts and additional content like our secret scenes and whatever else we have in store on our Insta story. So with that, we are Dynamic Character Productions, and we'll see you next time.